Today, I'll show you how to build the best habit tracker in Notion. If you're familiar with the concept of the IKEA effect, you will understand why setting up your Notion page will make this habit tracker the most effective one. When it comes to building new Notion pages, I like to follow a 3-step formula. The first step is setting up the database, followed by setting up the database views, and lastly, customization and optimization. I'm going to share a number of tips at the end to make your habit tracker truly yours and truly useful, so make sure you don't miss that. It's often the little things that makes your life a whole lot easier, just like organizing your desk the night before. So we'll start by opening an empty page in Notion and turning it into full width. And then we'll give this page a page name and icon. I'll just call it Habit Tracker. And hovering above the page title, we can click on the Add Icon button and choose an icon that we want to add. So to start, we'll add a new table database. Make sure you click on the one that's below the heading Database. And once that's done, we can click on New Database. And we can name this database Habit Tracker. To give this database view a clean look, I will hide the database title. And I will click on the 3 dots on the top right corner and go to Layout and turn off Show Vertical Lines. And lastly, I will delete the text property. And now we have a clean and fresh Notion database to get started with. So following next, we'll add a checkbox property for each habit we want to track. We'll label each checkbox property as a habit and pick an icon to represent it. An example will be reading a book. So I'll just name this habit as read. And I'll give it an icon that represents it. I will search for a book icon. And we'll repeat this for as many habits as you want to track. So once you have added all the habits that you want to track, we'll move on to add a progress bar to measure the completion of our daily habits. We do this by adding a formula property. I will just name this formula property progress. And pick an icon that better represents it. And then we'll click on Edit Formula, and from here we'll use the function toNumber before each checkbox property. So just search for toNumber and click on your habit, and we'll add them up. So what this means is when the habit property is unchecked, you will be given the value 0, and once it's checked, you will be given the value 1. So once we've added the sum of the values from these habits, we'll divide them by the number of habits we have. So in this case, there will be 3 habits. I will first add a bracket and the opening and end. And then we'll divide by the number 3. And we'll update the number format to %. And from here, we can choose to show the formula property as a ring. And also customize the color we want to display it as. And now if you check the checkbox property, you can see how the progress updates by itself. So you can see how there is a long string of number currently. So what we can do is to round up the number. To round this out, we'll first add a round function at the start of this formula. Following that, we'll add another opening and close bracket. So what we have now doesn't really work because it will round off to the nearest integer, but we want to have a 1 decimal place. So what we can do is to multiply it by 1000 and then divide it by 1000 after it's rounded. And with that, we can get the 1 decimal place that we want. So now that we have added the formula property, I'll add the last property for this database, which is the date property. So I'll just hit the plus icon and search for date. And I'll just leave the name of this property as date. And close this up. So this property will allow us to know which day we are tracking our habits for. Let me illustrate that. So this could be called daily habits. And the date could be today's date. And all the pages can have the same name called daily habits. And I will assign another date. So it can be troublesome to add a new page and assign a date to the page every day. So what we can do is to go to the top right corner of this database and click on the down arrow beside the new button and click on new template. So we can customize the page name and icon to the name and icon we want to see it every day. So this for me could be called daily habits, and I will give this a calendar icon. For the date property, we'll preview it to the date when it's duplicated. And I will rearrange the progress formula to be at the end of the page. And with that, we'll just go back to the home page and go back to the down arrow, and from here we can set this template with it every day and hit save. So a new page with the date property filled in will be generated every day, and you can start checking off your habits. Moving on to step 2, we will now set up different database views for our habit tracker. The purpose of creating different views of the same database is to quickly access the information we need. The first view will be called Today's View. I will first rename this tab to Today. And I can also give it a new icon just to make it a little more aesthetic. From here, I will add a filter for the date property, ensuring that only entries with today's date are displayed. So you can see how it's only showing the page with the date assigned to today's date. So to finish things up, I'll just resize this progress property. The second view will be called this week. We start by duplicating the first view. And then we'll rename it to this week. And I'll give it a new icon to just make things a little different. And we'll open up the filter and change up the date filter. So the start date should be now relative to today to be this week. Because we will be displaying more than one pages, we'll also add a sorting. We'll choose to sort by the date and arrange the pages from the earliest to the latest. This view will provide an overview of our progress and performance for the current week. The next view is a calendar view. To create it, we'll again duplicate the previous tab and then rename this to be called calendar, and I will change up the icon once again. And this time around, we'll be choosing a different layout. We'll click on layout and choose the calendar layout. Because it will make sense to show everything on the calendar view, we'll remove the filter and sorting. Then we'll go to the database settings to unhide the habit properties, as well as the formula property. This allows us to not only see them on the front whether they are checked off, but also check off the individual habits. I like the calendar view because it can really give us a general overview of our performance for the entire month and help us identify any inconsistencies on a particular week or so. The last view is what I would like to call the history view. So because we want to use the table view, we'll go back to the this week view and duplicate that. And now rename this view to be called history. And once again, we'll change up the icon that best represents it. I will use a clock icon. So what we want to see on the history view is all the pages that has passed today. That means actually we do not need a filter property, but we'll keep the sorting property just to keep everything in order. But I'm sure you can imagine this table view can become quite long over time. This is where the grouping feature comes in handy. To use the grouping feature, I will first go to the database settings and we'll click on group and choose to group by the date. And from here we can customize it further to choose to group by the month. And lastly, I will just turn on hide empty groups to make things a little bit more cleaner. So depending on what dates we have on this database, the toggle for the month will be populated automatically. So we can toggle this to show and hide all the pages that are under it. Now we are at the final and most important step, that is customizing and optimizing our habit tracker to suit our needs and convenience. So the first tip I want to give you is using buttons. On mobile view, it can be difficult to mark the respective habits as completed. To make it easier, we will add buttons that are larger and more noticeable. We will first go to the top of this page and add a new button block. So what I like to do here is to be more descriptive about my habits. So for example, for reading, this could be reading for 5 minutes or reading 2 pages. And then I will give it the respective icon that I've assigned for the respective habit. This really just makes things a little bit more clearer. So I will use back the book icon. So following which, we'll add a step to edit the page. So what we want to edit is this database that we have just created. So we'll search for the habit tracker database. So we don't want to edit all the pages that we have. We only want to edit the page for today's date. So what we can do is to add a filter for the page we want to edit. So I will select the date property and make sure that is set to today. So the property that we want to edit is the respective habit property. In this case, it will be the read property. And then we just select it to be marked as check. I will uncheck the read property just to make sure things actually work. And you can see right there. An optional step is to include a confirmation pop-up when the button is clicked. I feel like this just makes it a little bit more fun, and it's up to you whether you want to include it. But if you do, here's what we can do. Add another step and show confirmation. The confirmation could be really customized, so it could be asking, are you sure you have read 2 pages? We can also customize the buttons that are showing. I will rename it to be yes and no. So most importantly, we'll move the confirmation button to be the first step. Now when we click on this button, it will ask, are you sure you have read 2 pages? And we can select yes or no. If we put yes, and it will carry on with the button action. And if we select no, the button won't be checked. What we can do next is actually just to duplicate this button and repeat this for as many habits that we have. So I will duplicate this button and go to the settings of the button to just rename the page first. So perhaps you'll be working out for 20 minutes. And then I'll give it the same respective icon. And I will just change up the page that we want to edit. So in this case, it will be the workout property. And make sure to mark it as check. We'll also rename the confirmation. Are you sure you have workout today? And click done. So I'll quickly create the last button for our journal habit. So to keep things a little bit more organized and separate the buttons in the table view, I will just add a spacing in between them. So the next tip that I have for you is quite simple. It's actually just doing your daily journaling inside your habit tracker page. So what I can do is just open up daily habits page, and I can just start writing on the page body. I find this really convenient because we can utilize the same database for two different purposes, which makes sense because the habit tracker page is assigned to a date every day and the page populates itself every day. Another simple tip that I have for you is to add this page to your favorites. So by adding this page to favorite, you will place it at the top of your sidebar, which makes it a whole lot easier to access it. Another way to make it easier to access your habit tracker page is by using home screen widgets. So I will demonstrate how to set up the widget on my iPhone home screen. Press and hold anywhere on your home screen, then click on the plus icon on the top left corner. Search for Notion and add a small widget by dragging it to your desired place on the home screen. Next, click on the widget and select Choose Page to select the page you want to create a shortcut for. And that's it. So let's move on to the next tip. If you have a dashboard page like a second brain template, you can add a habit tracker view to see everything in one place. So to do this, we can go to our table database and right click on the view that we want to use, perhaps the today's view, and then copy the link for this view. And then we'll navigate to the page that we want to see the habit tracker. And this could be the second brain page. And then we can choose a place that we want to put this habit tracker view. So perhaps I'll put it right under my task views. And I'll give it the heading habit tracker. And then I'll paste the link and create a link view of the database. So with that, I can see my habit tracker right on the page where I go to every day. So this really just makes it more convenient and just keep myself aware of whether I've completed my habits for the day. If you're like me and you enjoy keeping things minimal and clean, these last few tips is for you. So go to your table database and open up the page. And we'll click on the three dots icon to open up the page settings. Click on Customize Page. And from here we can turn off top level discussions. So what this does is that it hides the comment section. So we can close off this view and make the table database itself more clean and minimal. The first thing that I will do is actually to hide the date property, because this view is already filtered for today, so unless you really want to know the date, you can actually keep that hidden. And to make things a little bit more compact and minimal, we'll resize each checkbox property down to the icon. And we'll even do the same for the progress ring. The important part is to just make sure that you have assigned a unique icon to each habit such that you can easily identify what you're checking off. And that's it for this video. If you're feeling lazy, you can simply head over to the description below to download this template for free. Lastly, if you found this video helpful, please hit the like and subscribe button for more.